Hey guys, tonight we drift through warm candlelight into the hidden corner of an ancient laboratory where brass tubes hiss softly and shadowy bronze shapes loom against the stone walls. You brush a hand across the cool marble, feeling the faint tremor of steam shaking loose the dust of 2 millennia. It's quiet, almost too quiet, and you probably won't survive this revelation unscathed by awe, but that's part of the fun, right? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments so we can all pretend we have synchronized watches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step closer to a low bench built into the wall, its surface littered with curious cranks and scorched clay lamps. A lone scroll lies unfurled, its edges singed, its ink faded but still whispering secrets. Your pulse slows into a gentle rhythm as you trace the looping Greek letters, spelling out a name you've only heard in passing: Hero of Alexandria. He is long gone. Of course, Corsetus appeared into the dust like so many ancient experimenters, but his ideas endure in this hissing specter of metal and steam. As the first tendril of heated vapor coils into the open air, you notice the machine's simple elegance: a spherical metal body mounted on a pedestal, an angled tube jutting out its side. You can almost hear it laughing at you in that deep, resonant growl. Jokes aside, Hero's reputation for mechanical genius was no myth. He authored the seminal treatise Pneumatica in the 1st century CE, documenting water pressure, steam, and even how to build a singing bird that flaps its wings and chirps on quaia, mainstream fact that anchors our tale. It feels surreal that such sophistication existed 2,000 years ago, yet here you stand, proving once more that reality can outdo fiction. The steam-powered automaton itself is said to have been discovered centuries ago, hidden in the depths of a ruined temple beneath layers of rubble and mildew. You can almost feel the damp air clinging to your skin as you imagine early explorers prying away mossy stones to reveal this quiet marvel. Legend holds that it lay undisturbed until a chance excavation by medieval monks revealed the delicate bronze. You smile at the mental image hard to picture monks in robes scratching their heads over a steam engine, but hey, history is full of surprises. A gentle hiss escapes the pedestal as you place a tiny ceramic cup under the automaton's spout. Steam swirls, the cup rattles, and you can't help but chuckle. Look at you, fancy coffee maker of antiquity. That's joke number 1 so far. So polite. The steamy spout, fueled by a concealed heated chamber beneath, would automatically pour a fixed measure of water into a container when you inserted a coin into a slot, making it arguably the world's first vending machine. Imagine paying for a sip of water in an ancient, agora-grumpy shoppers complaining about rising steam taxes. Joke number 2. But underneath the playful wonder lies deeper questions. Historians still argue whether Hero's automaton was meant purely for practical use or mainly as a temple spectacle to impress worshippers with divine power. Some suggest it was the brainchild of a philosopher playing at gods. Others see serious engineering intent. Either way, this creation bridged the gap between science and religion, utility and illusion. You reach out to touch the smooth bronzes, surprised when the metal feels almost warm, as if the automaton itself still remembers the fire that once boiled beneath. A brief flicker of doubt crosses your mind. Are you witnessing the machine's lingering spirit, or simply the echo of ancient heat? Either way, you're hooked. In the dim glow, you spy a section of the scroll describing Hero's broader ambitions: automatic temple doors that swung open at the drop of a candle, self-playing organs powered by steam, and even a device that dispensed holy water only when a proper offering was made. Those details hint at an inventor who wasn't just tinkering in the margins, but rewriting the rules of what metal could do. You lean in, heart softened by the gentle hum, and realize that these aren't the garish automata of modern sci-fi, are whispers of curiosity crafted in bronze and fire. Somewhere in the dusty silence, you feel a companionable tickle of insomnia surrendering to wonder. You let out joke number 3 in a hushed tone. If only my morning espresso machine had this kind of pedigree, I might wake up with a PhD. The steam hisses one last time, then settles into a soft sigh, as if apologizing for stealing your heart and maybe your resolve to sleep. As your eyes grow heavy, you take one last look at the automaton's sleek curves and exposed pipes. You savor the thought that this delicate contraption, born of Hero's restless mind in bustling Alexandria, survived the slow decay of centuries to greet you now. The origins of this mechanical marvel lie not just in the stones of an ancient temple, but in a human itch to make the impossible move, to breathe life into bronze. The warm fan hums again, cradling you in soft sound. You can almost feel the heat from that hidden furnace fading into memory, the hiss of steam receding into a gentle echo. And with that, the legend of Hero's steam-powered automaton becomes yours, carried forward in the quiet space between wakefulness and dreams. You lean back against a stone column, the afterglow of steam still tingling in your fingertips as your mind drifts to the man behind the marvel. Hero of Alexandria, the quiet genius whose name flickers through history like a torch in a dark hallway. You picture him hunched over a cluttered desk, quill in hand, scribbling formulas on parchment by the flicker of oil lamps. It's almost too cinematic, like he belongs in a Netflix series about time-traveling inventors yet. It's all too real. Born around the 1st century CE, Hero studied at the famed Museum of Alexandria, a sprawling complex of learning and innovation. You can almost hear the murmur of students debating Euclid's geometry in the next hall, while Hero is more likely arguing with himself about how to turn water into motion. Mainstream fact: he authored at least 5 major works, most notably Pneumatica and automaton-tailing devices that ranged from wind-powered organs to coin-operated holy water dispensers, cementing his reputation as the ancient world's premier engineer. But who was this man beyond the scrolls? Fringe tidbit: some accounts whisper that Hero believed in sympathetic magic, claiming that carefully tuned vapors could not only move gears, but influence the human Sulin idea you find delightfully bizarre and vaguely unsettling. You almost expect him to have carried a pocket-sized talisman shaped like an owl, invoking Athena's wisdom whenever a gear jammed. Joke 1. If he had a day job, it'd probably be Wizard of Steam, but he'd charge you in drachmas. Despite his mechanical prowess, Hero was notoriously private. You imagine him snapping at apprentices who asked too many questions, maybe because he feared someone would steal his blueprints and mass-produce automata for economic gain. The scholarly debate still rages over whether Hero's writings were original inventions or clever compilations of earlier Greek and Egyptian knowledge. Historians still argue whether he studied lost works by Ctesibius or simply reverse-engineered temple devices he observed as a youth. It's like trying to untangle headphone wires that have knotted themselves over millennia. You know there's an answer, but good luck finding it. Your mind drifts to Hero's daily routine, reconstructed only in broad strokes by scattered references. You picture dawn breaking over the harbor, boats bobbing like lazy dogs, while Hero ambles in, his robe dusted with sand and soot. He brews bitter tea from local herbs because coffee hadn't been invented yet, and sips it thoughtfully, staring at a half-finished orrery model on his bench. That's fringe tidbit number 2. Legend says he tested miniature planetary machines powered by steam, predicting eclipses and planetary alignments. Sure, those stories might be exaggerations dreamed up by later romantics, but you can't help but grin imagining tiny bronze planets moonwalking across a marble table. You step around a bronze statue of Athena, a subtle callback to your joke about Hero channeling her wisdom earlier, and let out joke 2. I bet he'd have totally ghosted you if you DM'd him about collabing on YouTube. The dusty workshop seems to echo with laughter that isn't there, settling back into solemn quiet. The real wonder is that Hero's writing survived at all. Papyrus scrolls rarely last 2 centuries, let alone 2 millennia. Yet his treatises circulated in Byzantine monasteries and were later translated by Arab scholars, ensuring the knowledge trickled into medieval Europe. Mainstream fact: it was through Arabic translations in the 9th century that Hero's work on mechanics seeped into the minds of scientists like Al-Jazari and ultimately spurred the Renaissance engineers. You smile at the butterfly effect, a single Greek engineer inspiring the clocks that still tick today. Between the lines of his mechanical diagrams, you sense a playful spirit. Hero didn't just want devices to work, he wanted them to astonish. He described how a hidden pipe could make temple doors swing open with ghostly flourish, prompting worshippers to gasp and credit divine forces. That's where automation met showmanship. Fringe tidbit number 3. Rumor has it, he once rigged a theater stage so that a sphinx would emerge on cue, drop steaming incense, and then vanish presaging modern special effects by nearly 2,000 years. Late-night theater would never be the same, right? Yet for all his spectacle, there's a human heart beating beneath the bronze. You feel warmth as you imagine Hero writing a letter to a friend, complaining that the new water reservoir kept flooding his lab and ruining his notebooks. There's something comforting about picturing a great genius stuck, dealing with a leaky roof. It's a reminder that even legends wrestled with mundane annoyances, kind of, like you wrestling with your blanket when you can't find the right knot to stay covered. Scholars still argue what drove Hero more, pure curiosity or the promise of patronage. Some propose he was funded by wealthy Alexandrian merchants eager to dazzle visitors. Others insist he followed his own mercurial muse, spurning monetary rewards. Historians still argue whether his devices were intended as practical tools or elaborate parlor tricks. Whatever the truth, his legacy melds invention and whimsy so seamlessly that it's impossible to separate the two. You take a slow breath, absorbing the hush of the workshop. The air feels charged, as though Hero's lingering creativity still hums in the pipes and valves. You imagine him guiding your hand to adjust a valve, murmuring, "Just a twist clockwise, and watch." You obey, and for a moment, the automaton emits a soft, callous, single bronze bell, chiming like a distant memory. Your heart flutters with delight and relief. You realize that this man, more than 2,000 years gone, still knows how to surprise you. Lean back once more, and you see his name etched into the scrolls. Rufai, Uan, Mithri, Gathri, Neon, Ho, Lanto, Lantwe, Lathri, Afor, Puthri, Longtu, Kethri, Sifor, On, Erthri, Fathri, Neon, Ditu, Erthri, Tathri, Rufai, Afor, Puthri. You feel a kinship, a shared thrill in transforming the inanimate into something that feels alive. And perhaps that is Hero's greatest gift, the reminder that wonder can be engineered, that magic is just science we haven't unpacked yet. Your eyelids grow heavier and you let out a soft chuckle joke 3. Imagine explaining to your ancestor that you binge-watch cat videos on a glowing rectangle. He'd probably build a steam engine to destroy it. The laughter drifts away as you settle into the soft hum of the fan, tucking the thought of Hero's private eccentricities into your mind. As the quiet settles, you sense how Hero's relentless imagination not only bent bronze, but bent time itself, looping his ancient workshop into your late-night reverie. You inhale the subtle scent of hot metal and parchment, then exhale, letting Hero's whispered genius carry you deeper into the dreamscape.
You slip through a narrow archway carved into sun-baked limestone, stepping into Hero's workshop of wonders. The air here hums with purpose clinks of bronze gears, the hiss of steam escaping hidden valves, and the low crackle of reed flames dancing beneath metal pots. Shafts of afternoon light slant through small windows, illuminating motes that drift like tiny dancers in a lazy ballet. You inhale deeply, tasting the sharp tang of heated metal and scented wood smoke, and your senses sigh in delight. On the right, a low bench holds an array of unfinished automata, half-assembled birds with hollow breasts, slender tubes snaking through their bodies. A copper griffin whose wings twitch at the gentlest puff of air, and a small, squat urn fitted with a series of spigots and pistons. Mainstream fact. Hero's workshop reportedly produced everything from self-filling wine dispensers to mechanical theaters, as detailed in his surviving treatises, demonstrating his mastery of pneumatics and hydraulics. You can almost hear him muttering, "Just a little more pressure," as he tweaks a tiny bronze piston. A column in the center of the room supports a large cauldron blazing atop a tripod. Beneath it, water churns into steam that winds its way through polished pipes to power various contraptions. Some visitors claim they once saw the entire assembly rotate like a miniature sun-powered planetarium, though that may be more romantic legend than fact. Historians still argue whether Hero's designs were actually built and tested in his lifetime or merely conceptual sketches meant to inspire future engineers. You squint at the interlocking brass rings and wonder if you're gazing at a fully functional prototype or a Toy Society model meant for display. Glancing left, you spot a half-finished water organ, an ingenious instrument that pushes air through pipes via steam-driven pistons, producing haunting melodies that echo off the stone walls. Fringe tidbit. Rumor has it that Hero once rigged this organ to play itself only when a statue of a god was present, believing that divine approvals would enhance the music's harmony. You stifle a chuckle, imagining a bemused deity tapping its chin and nodding in time. Joke 1. If only Spotify had a divine mood playlist curated by Zeus himself. The workshop's far corner holds shelves lined with small clay lamps and vials of fragrant oils. You lift one vial, the scent of rose and cedar tickling your nostrils. From this aromatic stash, Hero concocted mixtures that he claimed soothed overheated piston sand, early engine coolant of sorts. Fringe tidbit number 2. Some scholars suggest he even experimented with primitive lubricants made from crushed olive pits and animal fats. An odd recipe that likely smelled like a Mediterranean kitchen after a long summer feast. You wrinkle your nose and whisper, "Gourmet mechanics, ancient edition." Around you lie piles of parchment scrolls scribbled with diagrams, spirals, cross-sections, Latin letters creeping into the margins where later copyists added notes. You reach for one scroll and run your finger along a diagram showing a rotating bird perched on a spout of steam. Mainstream fact. In Pneumatica, Hero describes a steam-driven pigeon that flaps its wings and emits a cooing sound, marking one of the earliest detailed accounts of an automaton imitating animal behavior. It's wild to think this playful piece of engineering predates even the mechanical clocks of medieval Europe by centuries. At the edge of your vision, a large wooden wheel turns slowly, its spokes connected to a series of ropes and counterweights. You tug gently on one rope and feel the whole mechanism shudder, as if waking from a long sleep. Historians still argue whether this wheel was part of an actual workshop tool, perhaps a primitive lathe for shaping wood and metaller, a theatrical prop meant to demonstrate the principles of leverage to visiting dignitaries. Either way, it's a tangible link between brute force and delicate precision. A sudden hiss catches your attention, and you lean in to inspect a small cylinder. Steam escapes through a narrow slit, lifting a tiny door on a reed box. You hear a brief blast, a puff of air that sounds like a soft trumpet. It's an ingenious demonstration of how steam pressure can be converted into sound. Fringe tidbit number 3. Whispers persist that Hero used such mechanisms to create early surprise scares in temple rites, startling worshippers with phantom noises that seemed to come from the gods themselves. You grin and joke too. I'd pay good drachmas to see their face's ultimate ancient jump scare. Beyond the working station, a shallow trough filled with water catches dripping steam. Floating on its surface is a small, buoyant boat outfitted with a tiny paddle wheel. As you toss a pebble in, the boat rocks gently, then cruises forward in a lazy circle. Mainstream fact. Hero's aeolipile, inspired models like this, demonstrate the principle of reaction propulsion, centuries ahead of its application in steam navigation during the Industrial Revolution. You watch the boat's smooth journey and feel a thrill at witnessing the same simple physics that would later power real ships. Across a dusty wooden table lies a model of temple doors, two rectangular panels held by hinges and connected via cords to a hidden steam chamber. A single candle placed near a vent triggers the chamber, releasing pressure that pulls the cords and swings the doors open automatically. You reach for a candle, light its wick, and position it just so. In moments, the doors creak open, revealing a dark alcove beyond. The effect is undeniably dramatic, like a stage trick in a Greek tragedy. You step back with a soft laugh joke 3. Who needs special effects when you've got steam-powered entrance cues? As the doors swing shut, you feel a gentle vibration underfoot. It's as though the entire workshop breathes with you, its heartbeat regulated by steam and bronze. You sense Hero's presence here, not as a ghost, but as an echo of his endless curiosity. You realize that this workshop wasn't just a place of creation, it was a laboratory of wonder where science and theater intertwined seamlessly. Your eyes drift over the workshop's tool shammers, chisels, delicate files, and polished glass tubes. You picture apprentices scurrying about, fetching brass rods or cleaning glassware, their faces lit with excitement as steam coalesced into motion. You can almost hear Hero's gentle admonishments. Careful now, precision, not force. There's affection in that imagined voice, a teacher eager to guide budding minds. You step to the center again, raising both arms to embrace the room's warmth. The scent of oil, lamps, incense, and heated metal mingles into a heady perfume. You close your eyes, listening to the symphony of hiss, clank, and soft whistle. In this crucible of invention, the boundary between the living and the mechanical blurs, inviting you to believe that bronze can indeed breathe. Slowly, you open your eyes and let the workshop's energies settle into your bones. You realize that this place, bathed in steam and lit by flickering flame, is the very heart of Hero's legacy. Here, in the collision of bronze, fire, and air, the ancient inventor sculpted not just machines, but dreams whispering that with enough curiosity, even the most inert material can be coaxed into life. You step back through the archway, leaving the workshop's chorus behind, but carrying its gentle hum within you. The limestone walls fade into the corridor's quiet shadows, and the faint glow of moonlight guides your footsteps. The memory of clanking gears and hissing steam lingers, even as the world outside sleeps. You step deeper into the shadowed corridor, guided by the soft echo of dripping water and distant hisses, until you reach a broad alcove lined with bronze pipes and stone basins. Here, Hero's true magic unfolds, the art of pneumatics using nothing more than steam, air, and clever valves to coax metal into movement. You draw in a slow breath, tasting half the damp stone and half the faint tang of warmed metal, and let your mind settle into the mystery of how invisible pressure became orchestrator of life in bronze. In the center of the alcove stands a squat bronze cylinder capped with a domed lid, its surface mottled green with age. A thick tube winds down its side into a shallow water trough, and another slimmer pipe stretches toward a hidden fire pit below. You place a hand on the lid and feel a ghost of heat and echo of the boiling cauldron that once fueled this apparatus. Mainstream fact: Hero's aeolipile, often called the Hero engine, spins when steam jets escape from bent tubes, demonstrating reactive force centuries before modern steam engines appeared. It's simple physics, yet in this dark alcove, it feels like sorcery. You crouch to study the cylinder's base, where a series of tiny valves connect to a network of metal arms and levers. Each valve is hand-forged, its screw threads a testament to ancient craftsmanship. Turning one ever so slightly releases a whisper of air that rattles a bronze gong across the room. You can't help but grin at the subtle theatricality. Hero wasn't content with mere motion. He wanted an audience. Fringe tidbit, some tales suggest he tuned these gongs to the specific resonance of temple chambers so that the sound would swirl unpredictably, fooling worshippers into thinking the gods were debating overhead. You shiver in delight, imagining marble priests huddled beneath a divine argument echoing through unseen tubes. Joke 1. It's like ancient surround sound, just add incense for the full immersive experience. You rise and trace the path of a polished copper tube snaking along the wall. It leads to a robust gear mechanism that once powered a set of temple doors. Historians still argue whether Hero's original diagrams indicated a continuous steam supply or relied on intermittent bursts controlled by a rotating drum. Some believe he used a heated flask to build pressure slowly, punctuating it with manual valve turns. Others insist he invented an early form of automatic regulator that maintained constant force. It's like trying to decipher an 8th century recipe for ambrosia tantalizing hints, but always a missing ingredient. You pause by a low basin filled with water that ripples gently as though stirred by an unseen hand. Above it hovers a small bronze bowl balanced on a slender rod. When steam from the fire pit below enters the rod, it inflates a bladder hidden inside the bowl, causing the vessel to tip and spill water back into the bassina, crude yet ingenious self-filling cistern. Mainstream fact. Hero's work included detailed instructions for this self-regulating fountain, which he called a water clock, combining hydraulics and pneumatics to measure time in softly spilling droplets. Leaning in closer, you notice tiny etchings on the rod Greek letters and symbols that map the inner passages, almost like a map of a hidden labyrinth. You follow the etchings to a small knob, turn it, and feel the bowl shift. There's a gentle hiss as the bladder deflates, the bowl rights itself, and droplets cascade again. Fringe tidbit number 2. Some medieval translations misread the symbols and claimed the device could measure a sinner's weight in the afterlife, doling out exact panacea, entirely fanciful corruption of Hero's original design, but an entertaining story. You smile at the thought of medieval monks using water clocks to absolve or condemn, their sins measured in milliliters. Joke 2. Guilty of napping during Vespers? 3 drips and you're forgiven. Overslept morning prayers? Better bring your towel. You step back and watch the interplay of steam and water, marveling at the seamless balance between invisible forces. It occurs to you that this mastery of pneumatics required not just theoretical knowledge, but patient experimentation, filling, heating, tweaking, braking, and repeating. Historians still argue whether Hero conducted live demonstrations for patrons or preferred to refine his machines in solitude, revealing them only when perfected. It's as if he left breadcrumbs of brilliance without a full trail, daring future generations to finish the path. A sudden puff of steam from a nearby valve causes a row of brass tubes to slide out of hidden slots like drawbridge gates, revealing a hidden niche. Inside, you glimpse a tiny mechanical bird poised to take flight. You lean closer, your heart quickening. Is this the famed singing bird that flaps its wings and warbles on cue? You whisper, "Open sesame," half expecting a magic phrase to unleash the performance. Instead, you simply adjust a small lever, and with a soft flutter, the bird emerges, its bronze wings trembling as a small bellows inflates its chest. A brief tintinnabulation follows. sweet, metallic chirp that hangs in the air, surprising you with its delicate charm. Mainstream fact: this singing bird automaton, described in Pneumatica, is one of the earliest known singing machines, prefiguring 18th century clockwork birds by more than a millennium. As the bird settles back into its niche, you reflect on how Hero choreographed every puff of steam to create music, motion, and even mishap. Fringe tidbit number 3. Some modern experimental archaeologists tried to recreate his automaton using period-accurate materials and found the original design wildly temperamental, prone to bursting seams and erratic chirps, but undeniably enchanting when it worked. You chuckle at their troubleshooting logs. Day 7. Bird decided to self-destruct. Day 8. Fixed bladder leak with lamb intestine. Day 9. Now sounds like a broken flute. Joke 3. Elementary teardown with duct tape and prayers to Athena. Soulful as the automaton's song is, the core mystery remains. How did Hero calculate the precise volumes and pressures needed? Without pressure gauges or pistons marked in PSI, he relied on intuition, trial, and scribbled notes. Historians still argue whether his volume-to-pressure ratios were mathematically derived or simply the result of painstaking trial and error. Some propose he used early forms of water manometers, glass tubes filled with liquido-measure relative pressure. Others think he gauged by sight and sound, listening for the perfect hiss. It feels shockingly modern to hear such debates echo over 2,000 years, like tuning an antique radio to catch a lost broadcast. You take a steadying breath and cup your palms around a small brazier. The flame warms your fingers as you recall the hissed labors needed to animate bronze. This wasn't alchemy, it was rigorous observation of cause and effect, recorded in meticulous diagrams that survive today. The real wonder is that Hero's machines still challenge us, whispering questions about ancient ingenuity every time we crack a valve or steady a flute. In the hush, you feel a vibration underfoot, a muted pulse of ancient industry combining with your own heartbeat. The alcove is no longer just stone and metal, it's a living testament to the power of curiosity. You straighten and let the gentle hum of unseen steam guide you forward, carrying with you the mystery of pneumatics, the artful intersection of the invisible and the engineered. You emerge from the hush of the pneumatic alcove into a sunlit forecourt of a Greek temple where the scent of burning laurel mingles with the salt air drifting from the nearby sea. The marble columns tower overhead, their fluted shafts glowing pale gold in the afternoon light. As you step forward, you hear a soft, rhythmic, creaking-like breath drawn gently through copper lungsand. Realize the temple itself is alive with motion, each automaton a silent actor in a divine play. At the grand entrance, 2 bronze figures-winged lions with hollow bellies stand sentinel. Their eyes glint as steam pulses through concealed channels, animating their jaws in a slow, synchronized pant. Mainstream fact: Hero's temple automatons often used hidden water and steam mechanisms to create lifelike movements that amazed worshippers. Documented in his treatise Pneumatica, when he describes temple doors that opened by invisible hand at the lighting of a fire beneath the altar. You can almost feel the heat of that hidden hearth, the same glow that stoked those secret valves centuries ago. Beyond the lions, priestesses glide through a vestibule lined with niches, each housing a small automaton, a bronze child offering libations, a cooing dove that flapped its wings at the faintest breeze, and a pair of hands that emerged to sprinkle scented oil over a marble basin. Fringe tidbit: some ancient accounts claim Hero outfitted one automaton with a tiny reed whistle hidden in its torso. so it could mimic a melody of Pan's pipes, although historians question if that detail is more poetic license than practical engineering. Historians still argue whether that musical whistle was ever actually built, or if Hero merely sketched it as a fanciful idea. You follow the gentle rumble down a wide corridor, each step echoing against the polished stone. The walls seem to breathe as secret chambers release puffs of steam, punctuated by the soft click-clack of pivoting gears. Joke one drifts from your lips in a hushed whisper. Honestly, these guardians have better stamina than my morning alarm. It's hard not to grin. The mechanical lions, powered by nothing more than water, heat, and well-calibrated valves, move with a stately grace that borders on the uncanny. In the inner sanctum, the high priest stands before the cult statue of Athena, the goddess's bronze form bathed in oil lamps. At his nod, a concealed tray slides from beneath the statue's feet, bearing a small bowl of perfumed wine. Mainstream fact: Hero designed coin, operated holy water dispensers, and wine pourers' devotees dropped a coin into a slot and watched as liquid trickled forth in a ritualized performance, marrying piety with spectacle. You feel the bowl's warmth as if it just emerged from the hidden chamber beneath the dais. The worshippers kneel, murmuring prayers, while the gentle hiss of hidden pipes whispers an otherworldly accompaniment. Fringe tidbit: rumor has it that some devotees believed the automatons were actual manifestations of the god's will, and that an unlucky few claimed to see the statue's eyes follow them as they prayed. You smirk quietly, thinking how that level of audience engagement would put modern theme parks to shame. Joke 2. Disney, take notes, this is next. Level animatronics. Yet, beneath the wonder, a question lingers in your mind like a half-remembered echo. Were these devices regarded as genuine divine miracles or mere curiosities? Some ancient observers wrote approvingly, attributing the movements to supernatural power. Others scoffed, calling them toy tricks, unworthy of a temple. Scholars still argue whether temple authorities promoted these automata to reinforce faith or secretly reveled in their mechanical subterfuge. The debate echoes today whenever technology and belief intersect. You move toward a side chapel, where a series of bronze drapery panels are artfully carved into the wall. At the priest's soft chant, the panels part like curtains, revealing a hidden mural of mythic battles. Steam-powered pistons claw at the edges, pulling the panels back with a gentle sigh. The effect is mesmerizing marble visions unfolding before your eyes. You press your palm to the cool stone, feeling the faint vibration of metal arms just beneath the surface. It's a subtle touch that binds you to Hero's ancient engineering pulse. As the curtain closes, you notice a tiny bronze sparrow perched on a niche ledge. When you approach, it flutters its wings and chirps softly, an intimate callback to the automaton bird you encountered deep in the workshop. Joke 3 escapes softly. Can we get one of these in the office? Might keep the TPS reports lively. The sparrow's mechanical hymn hangs in the air, then fades as the niche slides shut, leaving you alone with your thoughts. Beyond the chapel, an alcove houses a steam-powered organ that fills the temple with low, reverent chords. Pipes shaped like lotus blossoms and stylized dolphins channel air from a hidden boiler, producing music that ebbs and flows with the shifting steam pressure. Mainstream fact: Hero's hydraulis, or water organ, is considered the precursor to modern pipe organs, combining water regulation with airflow to sustain notes longer than a single breath would allow. You close your eyes, letting the melody wash over you like a tidal wave of serenity. The music slows, and the temple settles into a hushed lull. You notice footprints, in the dust perhaps, from pilgrims who came centuries ago, awed by these mechanical miracles. The faintest smell of incense lingers, mingled with the musk of warmed bronze. You kneel and trace a finger along the dusty floor, imagining those ancient footsteps. Fringe tidbit. One monk's diary from the 8th century CE mentions hearing voices of gods emanating from a sealed chamber, likely misattributing Hero's automata to divine intervention. You shiver at the thought blurring the lines between technology and theology. Maybe cost people a few sleepless nights. You stand, brushing off dust from your tunic, and gaze upward at the frieze carved into the temple's pediment. Heroes of myth alongside mechanized cherubs, as though the sculptor anticipated Hero's inventions. This artistic nod suggests that automata were not mere curiosities, but woven into the cultural tapestry of the era. Historians still argue whether the imagery influenced Hero's designs or epic period artisans retrospectively incorporated mechanistic motifs. The chicken or egg question dangles tantalizingly. A gentle breeze whispers through the open colonnade, carrying the distant cry of seabirds and the soft sizzle of oil lamps. You inhale deeply, savoring the layered scents of marble, steam, and resin. The temple under Hero's hand was not cold stone. It was a living stage where faith and mechanics danced in tandem, where worship became theater and technology took on a sacred glow. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows that lengthen across the courtyard, you realize that these temple automatons did more than amaze. They reshaped the way people experience the divine. Through the hiss of steam and the click of hinges, Hero invited mortals to glimpse the boundaries of possibility and offered a tantalizing preview of a world where the mechanical and the mystical intertwine. You step back into the fading light, carrying with you the soft echo of gears turning and the memory of prismatic steam against white marble. The temple gates close behind you with a gentle sigh, like the final breath of a sleeping giant. You walk onward, heart lighter, mind buzzing with wonder, and perhaps just a bit more reverent of the hidden magic in simple machines. You pad across a mosaic-tiled courtyard, each footstep muted by the soft velvet of fallen petals, and let your thoughts drift back to the sparks that ignited Hero's restless mind. You recall the clanking gears of the temple lions and the size of the pneumatic alcove, but now you're hunting for the seeds of these marvels and curious toys and stagecraft borrowed from distant lands. Imagine Hero leaning over the railing of a ship's deck, watching Egyptian sailors unspool simple wind-driven toys or sneaking into open-air theaters to study smoke and mirror illusions. These oddball inspirations fanned into flame the ingenuity that fueled his steam-powered automaton. Your path leads you beneath a colonnade carved with lotus blossoms and hieroglyph-like motifs, a reminder that Alexandria was no isolated bubble, but a bustling crossroads of cultures. Mainstream fact: trade routes linked Egypt, Greece, and the Near East, carrying not only goods, but gadgets, Egyptian water clocks called clepsydras, rumor-spinning altars in Levantine shrines, and wind-driven Aeolian harps from Phoenicia arriving in Hero's hands like secret keys to new possibilities. You raise a hand to brush the carved petals and imagine the steady drip of those foreign clocks measuring time in whispers of water. You pause before a small bronze bird mounted on a stand, a replica of an Egyptian wind toy you once saw in a dusty cabinet. When you blow gently on its wings, it spins and trills through a small reed. Fringe tidbit: some scholars suggest Hero may have acquired one such toy as loot during a grain shipment from Alexandria to Rome, using it as a model to reverse engineer more complex automata. Historians still argue whether this toy was a casual curiosity he stumbled upon or a prized artifact he sought out deliberately. You blow softly, hearing the faint trill, and joke one. Imagine ordering that toy on Amazon Primea, 2 millennium wait for delivery. From the courtyard, the distant rumble of a festival reaches you, a troupe of theatrical performers chanting in masked chorus. You slip into the back of their wooden stage, where painted canvas backdrops disguise clever trapdoors. You crane your neck to watch smoke bombs released beneath the stage, spiraling through lattices of rope and pulleys. Mainstream fact: Hellenistic theater employed intricate stage machinery called mechan to lower gods onto the stage, creating divine interventions with pulleys and counterweights. Hero's fascination with these theatrics shows in his Pneumatica sketches, where hidden pipes substitute for ropes and steam replaces manual effort. Leaning against a prop column, you let your fingers trace the braided ropes that once supported a painted chariot, now riddled with age. Fringe tidbit number 2. There's a tantalizing rumor that Hero slept beneath this very stage during festival nights, scribbling notes by lantern light between performances. Some accounts say he slipped into the wings disguised as a stagehand to observe how shifting weight and concealed weights driven by water barrels created seamless illusions. Historians still argue whether he was an invited spectator or a secretive saboteur, stealing theatrical secrets under cover of darkness. You smirk at that mental imager, brilliant inventor dressed in a battered tunic, elbow deep in backstage muck. Exiting the stage, you duck under an awning hung with strings of colorful glass spheres imports from the Syrian artisans who traded colored glass for Greek olive oil. In the fading sunlight, the spheres catch the breeze, chime together, and tint the air with rainbows. Mainstream fact: Hero wrote about sounding vessels filled to precise levels with water to produce musical toneza concept that later transformed into the glass harmonica in the 18th century. You pluck a sphere with your fingertip, listening to the hollow ping, and marvel at how such simple tools sparked mechanized music centuries later. A low table holds a battered leather pouch containing small fuses and carnelian beads. You lean in, plucking a bead and rolling it between your fingers. Fringe tidbit number 3. Ancient pyrotechnicians from Syria and Persia introduced rudimentary flash powders that, when ignited, produced bright sparks precursors to the temple fireworks that Hero might have integrated into his automata for dramatic effect. Some historians still debate whether Hero truly combined pyrotechnics with pneumatics or whether later writers embellished his experiments for sensationalism. You drum a bead on the table and joke too. Imagine combining steam and fireworks' instant ancient rave. Beyond the table lies a low basin of water, in which floats a cluster of lotus petals dyed brilliant crimson. When you stir the water, the petals separate and spin in concentric circles. You dip a finger into a nearby clay lamp's oil, touch it to a petal, and watch as steam from a hidden tube ignites a small lantern beneath, making the petals glow from below. Mainstream fact: Hero described fire ducts that channeled heated air to light lamps or incense automatically when triggered by rising steam, a clever fusion of pyro and pneumatics. That haunted glow reminds you of every carved lion's eye that flickered with inner fire. You step back into an open courtyard where a battered globe sits on a stone pedestal. Its surface is scratched with symbols and tiny holes. You press your ear to one opening and hear the faint gurgle of water. Historians still argue whether this was an early meteorological instrument or a playful wind whistle inspired by Indian rainmaker, toys that captured air currents in chambers to simulate thunder. Fringe explorers hypothesize that Hero combined these exotic toys with local knowledge to build machines mimicking natural phenomena. You joke 3, Mother Nature's prototype versus Hero's remix. A breeze ripples through the courtyard, carrying the scent of orange blossoms from a nearby grove. You lean in, closing your eyes, imagining Hero inhaling that same fragrance as he sketched his first diagrams. He must have courted these curiosities Egyptian toys, Levantine puppetry, fiery spectacles not as mere distractions but as seeds of invention. He glimpsed patterns in each novelty and wove them into complex mechanisms, transforming playful tricks into instruments of wonder. As twilight deepens, you gather up a wind-driven ceramic horse Modella replica built by artisans to honor Hero's legacy and cradle it gently. It rocks when you exhale softly. You feel a connection across ages. The toys that once sparked a child's delight now fuel a scholar's marvel. You sense Hero beside you, his eyes alight with curiosity as he traced the flight of a mechanical bird or the pulsing glow of a hidden lantern. His inspirations were everywhere, waiting for the right mind to unite them in bronze and steam. Leaning against a marble column, you let the last light fade and feel a gentle hush descend. The courtyard hushes, the echoes of exotic trades and distant performances recede, and you realize that Hero's surprising inspirations weren't secret formulas, but open invitations to watch the world with playful eyes, to snatch ideas from every corner, and to assemble them like pieces of a cosmic jigsaw. It's a reminder that creativity often sprouts from unlikely marriage-esteem and spark, toy and temple, art and engineering. Your eyelids grow heavy as you cradle the ceramic horse and let its wind-driven motion lull you. You inhale the mingled scents of oil, water, and warm earth, then exhale, surrendering to Hero's lesson. That wonder is built from curiosity, that every idle toy can seed a masterpiece. In your mind you hear his gentle whisper, "Observe everything there's magic in the mundane." And with that, you drift towards slumber, knowing that tomorrow you might see a toy anew. You follow a dusty path from the temple's grand forecourt into a bustling agora, its flagstones warmed by midday sun and crowded with olive merchants, potters, and chatter that mingles with the distant hiss of hidden steam. The air smells of baked bread, goat cheese, and acrid smoke from charcoal grills. Here, Hero's lesser-known devices slip into daily life, unnoticed beneath the cloak of routine, everyday marvels hiding in plain sight. You wander through the crowd, senses alert for the subtle mechanical whispers that once intrigued ordinary Greeks. At a street corner, you see a modest stone kiosk engraved with a small brass slot. A thirsty traveler, sunburned and weary, approaches and drops a bronze coin into the slot. You watch in quiet wonder as a hidden valve inside clicks open, releasing a steady trickle of cool water into a clay cup. Mainstream fact: Hero invented the first coin-operated vending device in the 1st century CE, dispensing holy water in temple sand apparently. Fresh water to parched market-goers be, converting coin weight into lever action that opened tiny valves. You lean forward, noting the faint drip as the water flows, and imagine how mind-boggling this must have seemed to someone who paid in drachmas for a gift from magic. A nearby baker slides open a wooden shutter with a lightweight automatic door system. You slip inside, following the baker's son into a dim, stone-walled oven room. A concealed mechanism of pulleys, driven by a small hidden water reservoir, pulls the shutter closed behind you with a soft sigh. Fringe tidbit: some scholars claim Hero's automatic doors were originally designed to lock out temple pigeons, not human-san eccentric commission by a pigeon-phobic priest who hated avian droppings. Historians still argue whether the pigeon-proof doors were practical inventions or satirical parodies in lost scrolls, but you can't help imagining a cadre of feathered squatters thwarted by valves and weights. Joke 1. Take that, winged squatters, your eviction notice is powered by steam. You step back into the sunshine and head toward a humble workshop. Through the open door, you glimpse a small furnace beneath an iron boiler, its top fitted with a hand pump. The craftsman flicks a lever and steam hisses through a flexible hose, inflating a leather pouch that gently presses inks onto parchment, creating the world's earliest self-inking stamp. Mainstream fact: in Automata, Hero describes a steam-driven device that could press seals onto wax tablets automatically, hinting at primitive forms of mass production. You watch the craftsman line up his clay tablets, each embossed with the city's emblem in perfect uniformity. It's a scene of quiet efficiency. Outside, a group of children chase a toy boat that skims across a shallow basin. You kneel and observe the tiny paddle wheel turning furiously, driven by a hidden water jet. Fringe tidbit number 2. Rumor has it that Hero gave such miniature watercraft to his nephews as amusement, but one nephew became so obsessed he paddled it into the Nile, prompting a frantic rescue by canal workers. Some historians still argue whether this anecdote is a playful invention by Athenian storytellers or a genuine family fiasco recorded in a lost letter. You grin, imagining a toddler's tears over a stolen toy, and joke too. Next time, tie that boat to a kiteless risk of aquatic sabotage. The scent of roasted nuts draws you onward to a street stall where an elderly woman dispenses rings of chestnuts into glistening copper bowls. She turns a crank beside her, and a small wheel powered by a hidden water sprinkler brings fresh nuts from the oven's interior up a spiral ramp. Mainstream fact: Hero's treatises include designs for automated cooking implements that rotated spits and conveyed food via water-driven conveyor belts, a true prehistoric microwave, minus the waves. You accept a handful of warm nuts and let the sweet flavor melt on your tongue, marveling at how seamlessly technology and daily chores intertwined. Nearby, an elderly philosopher strides by carrying a lyre. As he passes a discreet shrine to Apollo, a concealed pipe activated by the shrine's candle flame releases a gentle breeze that plucks the lyre's strings, producing a soft chord. Fringe tidbit number 3. Some accounts claim Hero rigged these devices to welcome favored patrons with personalized musical greetings, but others insist these stories arose from gossip about Apollo's own fickle moods. Scholars still argue whether these sonic surprises were built or merely inscribed in metaphorical diagrams. You smile at the thought of a musical welcome committee built into public spaces. Joke 3. I'd pay extra taxes for a lyre that serenades me each morning, instant mood booster. You drift toward a bustling latrine behind a row of wealthy shops, drawn by sounds of trickling water. A man in a linen tunic gestures at a bronze contraption and speaks a word to a hidden valve. You hear a hiss, the floor tilts slightly, and warm water sweeps across tiled drains, flushing away waste. Mainstream fact: Hero proposed simple water, powered flushing systems, using gravity and siphons to cleanse public latrines, early step toward modern sanitation. You admire the ingenuity, and gratitude washes over you. Even the humblest civic necessities benefited from his clever mind. At the far end of the agora stands a pottery stall. The potter dips a brush into a vat of glaze, then presses a small pedal. Steam from a concealed cauldron travels through a thin pipe to inflate a bladder that raises a turntable, spinning the vase gently under the brush. Fringe tidbit number 4. Some believe Hero once tried to patent a self-glazing pottery wheel, but its temperamental bladder exploded mid-demonstration, scattering lacquer across several dignitaries and sparking outraged debates over unauthorized glazing. Historians still argue whether this event really happened or was chalked up to jealous rivals seeking to defame Hero's reputation. You wander toward the city baths, where bronze sculptures of nymphs seem to shed water spontaneously. A glance reveals tiny pipes hidden beneath the exterior, hooked to a central boiler. As visitors toss coins into a nearby fountain, steam pressure surges and the sculpted nymphs' mouths pour scented oil into marble basins. Mainstream fact: Hero's coin, operated oil dispensers, revolutionized sacred rites, automating offerings that once required manual pouring by priests. You imagine the delight of bathers who received perfumed anointments at the push of a coin-a-pampering service powered by pneumatics. Just before you leave, you pause at a weather station on a colonnaded roof. A small bronze sphere fitted with 4 nozzles turns lazily as wind pressure shifts, directing steam through a snail-shell aioli pile to vent in the direction of the breeze. Fringe tidbit number 5. Whispers suggest that Hero's early anemometers, though conceptually sound, were never widely adopted because city councils preferred to consult soothsayers about wind omens. Historians still argue whether any surviving models were ever tested beyond mere sketches. You close your eyes, picturing parchment pages dotted with wind lines and steam plumes. As you retrace your steps, you sense how seamlessly Hero wove extraordinary machinery into everyday life. His inventions served common folk from thirsty merchants to laughing children, yet their secrets slipped into obscurity as centuries passed. Many devices were dismantled, their parts repurposed for hidden reasons or lost to the rust of disuse. You feel a gentle melancholy for machines that vanished without a trace, their blueprints eaten by time. Walking back down the agora's sun-scorched stones, you taste the sweetness of roasted nuts and the cool clarity of well-dispensed water. You hear echoes of whirring paddles and soft plinks of sliding doors, and you carry each memory like a hidden coin in your palm. Hero's everyday wonders were both practical and playful, secreted into the folds of life until they faded into folklore waiting for curious minds, centuries later, to unearth their stories. Your eyelids grow heavy as you step into a shaded portico. The chatter of the market recedes, replaced by the gentle hum of your breath. You lean against a smooth stone pillar and let the memory of coin-operated devices and self-inking stamps lull you towards sleep. You inhale the mingled scent of bread, bronze, and damp earth, then exhale, tucking away these lost secrets in the soft folds of your dreams. You step through a crumbling archway into a shadowy library that seems suspended in dust and silence. Shelves of leather-bound scrolls line the walls, their edges moth-eaten and gilt lettering faded, as though time itself has tried to erase every whisper of ingenuity lurking here. The breezy echo of your footsteps mingles with distant drips of water from a cracked roof gutter, and you become acutely aware of how this place feels more like a crypt than a repository of knowledge. You shiver, imagining that the very air is heavy with forgotten secrets. Ahead, you spot a weathered wooden stand supporting a single brittle scroll inscribed with delicate Greek characters. You cautiously unfurl it, the papyrus crackling like thin autumn leaves. Mainstream fact: this fragment appears to be a copy of Hero's Pneumatica, but missing entire section pages describing automatic wine dispensers and self-regulating fountains have simply vanished. You run your finger along the jagged edge, sensing the void where knowledge slipped away, and you realize how easily the most brilliant discoveries can be swallowed by neglect. A shaft of dusty light illuminates a second scroll tucked behind a chipped marble bust. As you draw it out, your heart quickens. Its diagrams show gear trains and piston diagrams almost identical to those in Hero's lost automata manuscript. Fringe tidbit: Rumor holds that these missing treatises were spirited away during the sack of Alexandria, sold off as parchment to make bandages for wounded soldiers, an apocryphal tale that paints scholars patching up wounds with the torn pages of genius. Historians still argue whether the manuscripts were looted by conquering armies or simply deteriorated in damp storerooms, unloved and untranscribed. You place both scrolls on a low table and pour yourself a cup of cool water from a chipped clay jug. As you sip, you notice rats scuttling between the columns, nibbling at stray crumbs and, perhaps, at scraps of papyrus. Joke one bubbles up. Nothing like a rodent food review to spice up late-night reading. You laugh softly, then straighten as a small piece of parchment flutters to the floor. On it, a faded note reads, "Copy Gardetto, not burn oil near shelf 4. The warning feels like a relic of paranoia. A sign that even centuries ago someone feared these ideas falling into the wrong hands or simply being lost to fire. You wander deeper into the labyrinth of shelves, trailing your fingertips along scrolls whose titles are all but indecipherable. There's a series on temple acoustics, perhaps notes on how hollow chambers and steam valves created eerie echoes, but its spine is frayed beyond recognition. Another collection on hydraulics, likely detailing the self-filling bird automaton you met earlier, lies collapsed in a corner, its leaves fused by mold. Mainstream fact: parchment and papyrus require stable, dry climates to survive, and Alexandria's humid coastal air was deadly to archives. It's believed that entire libraries succumbed to rot and insect damage, erasing vast swaths of heroes' work. You press your palm to the damp floor, feeling the lingering humidity in your bones. A sudden gust wafts in from a broken window, dislodging a loose scroll that spirals to the ground. You catch it deftly and unroll it to reveal a stunning diagram of a steam-driven theatrical mask that could open its mouth to recite pre-written Linson automaton actor, essentially. Fringe tidbit number 2. Some antiquarians claim a rival inventor, enraged by Hero's acclaim, deliberately stole and destroyed this particular design, fearing it would make human actors obsolete. Scholars still argue whether such professional jealousies drove the disappearance of specific blueprints, or if this is simply retrospective sensationalism. You trace the mask's jagged mouthpiece in the drawing, imagining it reciting lines in a hollow, mechanical voice. The library's once grand oak door stands off its hinges, its iron latch rusted shut. You shove it open and step into a stony courtyard choked with weeds. A shattered mosaic underfoot depicts a scene of a steam-powered chariot racing toward a temple, horses trailing steam plumes instead of dust. Mainstream fact: archaeologists unearthed this mosaic in the 19th century, but dismissed it as an allegory rather than literal illustration, an early misinterpretation that delayed recognition of Hero's pioneering work in steam propulsion. You crouch to examine the tiny colored stones, struck by how easily context can cloud understanding. In the center of the courtyard lies a half-buried chest, its lid cracked open to reveal a jumble of bronze fragments, a bent piston rod here, a collapsed valve there, and what looks like part of an automaton's wing. You pick up a gleaming fragment and wipe away centuries of grime, exposing a precisely machined groove. Joke 2 surfaces. It's like Dumpster, diving for ancient Apple Watch parts. You chuckle as the fragment slips from your fingers and clatters against a broken column. You stand and gaze at the ivy-clad walls, realizing this courtyard was once the heart of Hero's research compound, now reduced to rubble and vines. Only the tiniest clues remain: fragments of diagrams, shards of metal, echoes of ancient hisses. You feel a pang of loss, as if every lost scroll and rusted cog represents a conversation never had, an idea never realized. A sudden shaft of moonlight glints off something perched atop a marble pedestal, a small bronze cylinder, remarkably intact. It's the basic form of an aeolipial, its twin nozzles bent at precise angles. Mainstream fact: a single intact eolipile is preserved in the Museo Nazionale in Naples, but its operational details were long forgotten until experimental reconstructions in the 20th century. You lift the cylinder reverently, feeling its weight and the smoothness of its contours, connected inextricably to both past brilliance and centuries of neglect. Fringe tidbit number 3. An 18th century priest supposedly blackened this very device so it would be mistaken for a pagan idol, preserving it from destruction during waves of iconoclasm. Historians still argue whether such deliberate misidentification saved artifacts or merely obscured their origins further. You clasp the cylinder close to your chest, marveling at the unlikely journey from sacred reliquary to misunderstood trinket. As you cross back into the library, you balance the cylinder on a desk piled high with scraps. You consider how Hero's scrolls once teemed with detailed instructions measurements, valve sizes, pressure ratio set. So many fell victim to time's slow erasure. The machines he imagined vanished, leaving only tantalizing hints in broken mosaics and second-hand anecdotes. You pull a battered chair forward and sit amid the scattered scrolls and fragments. The hush of the library envelops you, and you feel the weight of centuries pressing down. Scholars still argue whether any complete copies of Hero's major works survive in hidden vaults or private collections, and whether reconstructing his full designs will ever be possible. The debate hangs between you and the remnants of parchment, a reminder that history is as much about what's lost as what's preserved. You tilt your head back, eyes drifting to the ceiling's gaping hole where stars peek through. The cold light of night sweeps across the scrolls, illuminating dust motes dancing like tiny specters. For a moment, you're suspended between triumph and tragedy, between marveling at Hero's genius and mourning the fragile threads by which that genius reached you. Joke 3 escapes in a whisper. In my next life, I'll remember to store my work in the cloud. The silence returns, punctuated only by distant rat scuttles and your own breath. You cradle the aeolipile fragment, letting its gentle weight anchor you to both past and present. As your eyelids grow heavy, you allow a final thought to settle. Forgotten technology isn't buried because it lacks value, but because humanity sometimes forgets to cherish its own wonders. You lay the cylinder gently on the desk, smoothing back a stray scroll, and rise to leave. The library's gloom feels softer now, touched by a flicker of compassion for what remains. You step outside once more, the courtyard's chill wrapping around you, and carry with you the echoes of lost steam engines, hollow scrolls, and whispering walls. In the hush, you promise to guard every fragment of wonder, to revive what time almost erased, and to remember that even the mightiest ideas can slip through history's fingers. You emerge from the leafy courtyard of slumbering antiquity into a cool, torchlit scriptorium of the Renaissance, where rows of parchment scrolls have given way to bound codices and the gentle click-clack of the printing press. Sunlight filters through arched windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air like tiny sprites. You clutch a newly printed volume of Pneumatica, its crisp pages crackling against your fingertips as though eager to breathe life into forgotten metal. It feels almost sacred, this collision of ancient steam and modern Incan echo of Hero's original marvel, reborn in a world hungry for rediscovery. You settle at a heavy oak desk strewn with quills, inkwells, and translation notes penned in neat Italian script. Mainstream fact. In the 16th century, Renaissance scholars such as Giovanni Battista Armanini and the polymath Marin Biance translated Arabic versions of Hero's treatises into Latin and Italian, making his work accessible to Europeans for the first time in over a millennium. You flip through a laminated reproduction of Biance's Marginalia, noticing his excited annotations next to diagrams of the Aeolipola proof that Hero's ideas leapt continents and cultures to ignite fresh experiments. It's surreal to think that this very treatise once lay hidden in Byzantine monasteries before inspiring telescopes, clocks, and even carnival automatons. You lean forward, inhaling the sweet scent of ink and aged vellum. Fringe tidbit. Legend whispers that one scribe attempted to power his own quill by rigging a miniature steam engine under his desk, only to singe his manuscript and send inkwell geysers across the room. You smirk at the thought of him chasing rolling parchment as though it were a runaway chariot, and joke one, note to self never DIY your fountain pen with steam power. The room hums with scholarly debate. A group of young inventors clusters around a brass model of an automatic bird reconstructed from Hero's diagrams. They tinker with tiny bellows and leather bladders, striving to coax a single metallic chirp. Historians still argue whether these Renaissance replicas were faithful rebuilds of Hero's originals or inventive reinterpretations, blending clockwork and steam. You watch as a hopeful apprentice adjusts a valve, only to erupt in a sputter of steam and flattened bird beak. His crestfallen expression reminds you of Hero's own trial-and-error journeys back in Alexandria. An elderly professor leans over, his spectacles perched on the tip of his nose, and whispers that some editions of Hero's work were deliberately expurgated by church authorities who feared pagan technologies might rival divine miracles. Fringe tidbit number 2. It's said that a cardinal once confiscated a Latin manuscript after witnessing a self-opening church door, ordering that any further copies be scrubbed of steam-powered revelations. Scholars still argue whether these censorships were systematic or sporadic reactions to local superstitions. You can't help but grin at the notion of clerics debating steam valves instead of theology. Joke 2 drifts from your lips. Imagine the Inquisition interrogating an automaton for heresy. Confess your mechanical sins. The room erupts in quiet laughter, the tension easing as the apprentices return to their scattered tools. You lean back in your chair and trace the outline of a woodcut engraving depicting Hero's self-pouring wine dispenser image, once so fantastical that some readers believed it pure allegory. Now it sits before you as a tangible blueprint for wonder. A slender shaft of midday sun warms the spines of leather-bound volumes lining the shelves. You rise to browse each title, a portal into arcane engineering. Mainstream fact. The first printed edition of Pneumatica appeared in Venice in 1575, opening Hero's designs to printers, artisans, and noble patrons across Europe. It wasn't just scholars who pored over these pages. Goldsmiths in Augsburg and clockmakers in Augsburg adapted Hero's pistons to craft ornate pocket watches and elaborate table clocks, merging pneumatic principles with precision gears. You pause at a display case where a recreated temple automaton stands, bronze figures holding lamps that lift and lower as concealed bellows inflate. The effect is Hypnotica silent ballet of metal and air. Fringe tidbit number 3. One wealthy patron commissioned a mechanized chapel in his villa where heavenly trumpets sounded at the flick of a candle flame, only to have the entire contraption collapse during his wife's birthday banquet. Historians still argue whether this spectacular failure was due to flawed design or simply the perils of private shows gone awry. You reach out, feeling the cool patina of the bronze and momentarily imagine those trumpets blaring as guests scatter in comedic panic. You wander toward a nook where an experimental steam cannon stands on a wooden tripod, its barrel aimed at a stack of clay pots. Apprentices gather around, debating whether Hero's principles could be weaponized a dark mirror to his playful automata. Historians still argue whether the engineer ever contemplated martial applications or strictly steered clear of might for mischief. You watch as a student fires a puff of steam that cracks the top pot with a sharp snap, the shards clattering like applause. Joke 3. Who knew Hero could have been the first steam age rock band-amplified percussion courtesy of hot vapor? Returning to your desk, you open a leather-bound notebook filled with modern reinterpretations of Hero's diagrams, complete with annotations in French, German, and English. You tuck a bookmark into the section on automatic temple doors, reminding yourself to compare Renaissance regulator designs with original scrolls. You sense the connective thread, one spark of curiosity in ancient Alexandria, rekindled by medieval scholars, fanned into a blaze of invention that spread across Europe. As dusk settles and lamplight glimmers in the scriptorium's corners, you lean back and savor the gentle echo of hissing steam from a cornucopia faithful callback to the pneumatic alcove you first visited in Hero's workshop. You feel the weight of centuries in the hushed hush, a testament to ideas that refuse to die. Scholars still argue whether Hero's steam automaton directly inspired modern engines or merely offered a tantalizing glimpse of future possibilities. Either way, its legacy flows through every piston and page before you. You close the printed volume of Pneumatica with a soft sigh, fingertips brushing the gilt title. Outside, the evening breeze stirs the banners of the workshop, carrying echoes of turning presses and whispered translations. You stand, stretching limbs stiff from writing and reading. You pause at the window, looking out onto a cobblestone alley where silhouette figures carry lanterns and dreams alike. You inhale deeply, tasting the mingled scents of parchment, machine oil, and fresh ink. The rediscovery of Hero's automaton wasn't a singular moment, but a gradual awakening, each copy, each experiment, each hum of steam echoing across labs and libraries. You exhale, feeling a gentle thrill that the ancient automaton's voice has traveled time to speak to you here. Your eyelids grow heavy as you blow out your desk lamp, plunging the room into a gentle gloom lit only by moonlight. You gather your notes and leave the scriptorium, the soft click of the closing door marking the end of your Renaissance reverie. In the hush, you carry with you the reborn steam engine's promise that ideas, once awakened, never truly sleep. You find yourself in a dimly lit loft crowded with blueprints, prototypes, and glowing neon Tubsan ironic echo of Hero's dusty workshop, transposed into the age of electricity. The air hums with low-frequency whirs and the gentle buzz of power supplies. You inhale the faint scent of solder and machine oil, a modern perfume that somehow feels kin to the hiss of ancient steam. Around you, inventors in hoodies adjust microcontrollers and coil miniature copper pipes, all chasing the same dream that once drove Hero of Alexandria to breathe life into metal. Mainstream fact. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, engineers like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla studied Hero's aeolipile and temple devices, cataloging his treatises to inspire early steam engines and automaton's rediscovery that helped bridge antiquity and the Industrial Revolution. You trace a finger along a modern schematic of a steam-powered automaton dog, its joints linked by brass pistons reminiscent of the temple lions you once saw, and smile at the continuity of curiosity across millennia. A young robotics enthusiast adjusts a tiny servo inside a bronze bird replica. Fringe tidbit. Some die-hard steampunk aficionados claim they've detected traces of wood, ash, and olive oil in Hero's original bellows, suggesting he may have used locally sourced materials that unwittingly gave his automata a distinctive Aegean aroma, a scent now mimicked by niche perfumers seeking to capture ancient engineering scent memory. You lean in, catching a trace of resin and metal in the air, and joke one, nothing says ancient chic like spritzing your robot with Hero's Workshop cologne. On a high shelf, you spot a battered copy of a pulp sci-fi novel from the 1920s. Its cover shows a massive steam automaton towering over skyscrapers, gears exposed and eyes glowing like furnace embers. You pick it up and flip through the page's futuristic cities powered by steam-driven giants, mechanized airships, and clockwork androids whose joints hiss with vapor. Historians still argue whether these early writers directly borrowed from translations of Pneumatica or simply tapped into a collective fascination with steam, but it's clear Hero's automaton seeded countless futuristic fantasies. You wander past a photocopied blueprint for a self-pouring espresso machine, a sly callback to the first section's steam coffee quip, and realize that dozens of hobbyists have attempted to recreate Hero's coin-operated water dispenser with Arduino boards and solenoid valves. Joke 2 escapes. Here's hoping it doesn't require a Drachmami Bitcoin wallet can't handle ancient currencies. You watch as someone drops a modern coin into the slot, and, with a polite electronic ping, a stream of espresso dribbles into a tiny glass. The lineage from bronze to microprocessor feels delightfully absurd. In one corner, a group debates passionately over a steaming prototype bearing 9 articulated limbs. One side insists it faithfully replicates the pressure-to-volume ratios described by Hero. The other argues it's an artistic reinterpretation, mixing hydraulic actuators and steam jets. Historians still argue whether Hero's original diagrams implied precise mathematical ratios or were evocative sketches meant to spur endless experimentation. You step in, placing a hand on the warm boiler, and feel the pulse of possibility. It's the same debate that echoed through dusty libraries and Renaissance scriptoriums. Was Hero an exacting engineer or an inspired dreamer leaving space for reinterpretation? A vintage phonograph in the corner crackles to life, playing a scratchy recording of a steam-powered musical automaton performance from the 1930s World's Fair. You close your eyes, letting the mechanical melody wash over you, brass pipes wheezing in harmony, tiny pistons ticking in time, and a chorus of clockwork cherubs chiming in the background. Fringe tidbit 2. Collectors swear that the original recording was played through a speaker modified with a ventilation flue, causing it to emit a faint steam hissan effect so convincing that fairgoers believed they were standing amid a living temple of sound. You lean closer to the phonograph horn, grinning at the thought of 1930s audiophiles chasing a ghostly hiss. You wander toward a wall lined with framed patent sketches. Among them is a 1950s filing for a steam-driven personal assistant, complete with a retractable speech horn and mechanized quill arm. Mainstream fact: in post-war America, engineers like Norbert Wiener and his contemporaries in cybernetics cited Hero's Pneumatics as proto-automation, fueling early discussions on feedback loops and self-regulating machines concepts that underpin modern robotics. You touch the patent drawing and feel a shiver of recognition, ancient ideas evolving into the foundations of control theory. A member of the group offers you a sip from a flask of smoky broth, a playful reimagining of Hero's temple libations. You raise an eyebrow. It tastes like miso soup with a hint of rosemary in joke 3. Tastes like the Jones soda of antiquity. The gesture reminds you how heroes' automata delighted senses. Not only sight and sound, but taste and smell, integrating every sense into his mechanical theater. It's a holistic artistry you rarely see in today's silicon-dominated labs. You step outside onto a rooftop garden overlooking a city skyline dotted with gleaming towers and retro-futuristic clock towers. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying the hum of traffic and the distant hiss of HVAC unit's modern counterpoint to heroes' cauldrons. Here, amidst potted ferns and solar panels, stands a collaborative art installation, a giant bronze hand, steam billowing from its fingertips, writing messages in the night sky with glowing vapor trails. Visitors below snap photos, mesmerized by the dance of metal and mist. Historians still argue whether installations like this honor heroes' legacy or trivialize it by turning serious engineering into spectacle. You settle onto a wrought iron bench, the metal cool against your skin, and ponder the question. In one sense, these steam dream artworks revive the spirit of wonder that once filled temple halls and Renaissance workshops. In another, they risk reducing heroes' nuanced understanding of pneumatics to mere visual gimmicks. You pull out your phone, ironically powered by batteries and semiconductor sand scroll through social media feeds filled with steampunk contraptions, intricately varnished gears, faux leather panels, and endless bronze filigree. Some creators build fully functional mini-engines. Others spray paint old machinery in antique patinas. It's a booming subculture that owes as much to Heroes' Automaton as it does to Victorian fantasy. You can't help but admire the dedication, even if much of it leans into aesthetic overfunction. A gentle rain begins, splattering onto the rooftop's corrugated panels. Steam from the bronze hand curls upward, mixing with misty droplets to create a brief, shimmering cloud. The scent of wet metal and soil washes over you, grounding you in the moment. You close your eyes and let the sound of rain and steam swirl together, a duet of nature and invention echoing centuries of human aspiration. As the rain subsides, you rise and brush stray petals from the bench. You look back at the rooftop installation and then at the horizon, where skyscrapers glow softly in the evening light. In this mingling of old and new, you feel the continuum of possibility. Heroes' steam-powered automaton did more than entertain temple crowdsit cast a long shadow into the future, inspiring engineers and dreamers to imagine machines that move, sing, and even taste. You take a deep breath, feeling the moist air settle in your lungs. You realize that Heroes' legacy isn't just in dusty scrolls or gleaming art. Piscesit lives in every tinkerer who hears the hiss of steam and envisions living metal. It pulses in the silent debate over authenticity, in the playful reenactments of ancient devices, and in that half-remembered thrill when a valve clicks open for the first time. Your eyelids grow heavy as you descend the ladder from the rooftop, the gentle drip of rain fading into memory. You step back into the loft, the hum of electronics welcoming you home. You set down the bronze bird, now softly glowing with vapor, and let its rhythmic wheeze guide you toward rest. You inhale one last time, tasting solder and steam, and exhale, releasing the modern world's electric current in favor of an ancient pulse. As you settle into sleep, you carry with you the vision of Heroes' Automaton whispering across time, urging you and all who dream to keep coaxing life from bronze. You step into a quiet gallery lit by shafts of moonlight filtering through high windows where ancient gears and polished bronze fragments are displayed like sacred relics. The air is cool and still, carrying a faint echo of hissing steam and the soft scrape of metal on stone. You pause before a glass case housing the partial frame of Hero's Automaton, its curved limbs and hollow torso whispering tales of a time when science was indistinguishable from wonder. A single spotlight traces the gentle curve of a piston rod, and you feel drawn into a conversation that spans millennia. As you circle the display, your fingertips hover just above the glass, recalling every echo of steam you've heard from the rhythmic hiss in the workshop to the organ's low sigh in the temple. Mainstream fact: modern reconstructions have shown that Hero's Automaton could operate for several minutes on a single smear of heated coals, demonstrating an efficiency in steam utilization unrivaled until the 17th century steam engines of Thomas Savery and Newcomen. You imagine the surprise on a Victorian engineer's face, realizing that the earliest steam engine was born not in England, but in the hands of a Greek tinkerer under a desert sun. Your gaze drifts to a faded mural painted behind the case, depicting a temple scene animated by bronze figures. Fringe tidbit: some local lore claims that the mural originally included a painted steam plume rising from the altar, but that an overzealous restorer in the 1920s painted it out, fearing it would confuse visitors. Historians still argue whether the original artist intended to depict real machinery or merely stylized divine breath proof that even imagery can fall victim to scholarly squabbles and well-intentioned erasures. You draw a slow breath, tasting the cool metal scent mingled with distant incense. You recall the river breeze in Alexandria carrying the smell of salt and heated stone, and you feel that same mixture here as though time has looped back on itself. A voice in your mind whispers, "You are the final witness," and you obey, leaning closer to read the tiny plaque. Part restored Eolipile automaton circa honest century CE. A soft chime rings from a hidden speaker, cueing an ambient track that melds mechanical clicks and choral echoes. You close your eyes and let the soundscape wash over Ubron's gears turning in an invisible gearbox, steam valves opening with a polite hiss, and faint chorales sung by unseen voices. Joke 1 flutters on your lips. Who knew a museum exhibit could have better surround sound than my living room? You smile, amused that even in solemn spaces you can't resist a bit of levity. Opening your eyes, you step to a nearby bench and rest your elbows on your knees. You reach into your pocket and pull out a small replica of Hero's coin-operated dispensera gift you acquired earlier. The modern mechanism clicks when you press it, but the hollow echo of its ancient counterpart vibrates in your memory. Historians still argue whether Hero intended his dispenser for sacred libations or simple street commerce, a debate that echoes in every clink of coin in today's vending machines. It's a fitting metaphor. Machines once reserved for temples now stand in every subway station. You lean back and feel the chill of polished marble beneath you. The case's reflection shows your face, eyes bright with curiosity. Fringe tidbit number 2. Rumor has it that one curator once reactivated the automaton after hours, only to have it dispense a single drop of water onto the spotless floor, an eerie reminder that Hero's machines, once awakened, still obey their maker. You imagine the startled curator tiptoeing away, leaving a perfect droplet as the only trace. A hush settles, and you sense the weight of centuries pressing gently against your skin. The gallery lights dim, and only the spotlight on the automaton remains. You notice the interlocking teeth on a stray gear fragment each tooth worn smooth, as though caressed by countless hands. You trace its outline in your mind, recalling the first time you watched that self-filling fountain tip and spill, the first note from the singing bird, the first doors swinging open at candle's breath. You stand and walk to the gallery's exit, the floor echoing softly under your sandals. Before you leave, you pause at a final display, a polished sphere with twin nozzles, an eolipial frozen in stillness. Mainstream fact. This simple device embodies the principle of reaction propulsion, laying conceptual groundwork for everything from steam locomotives to modern jet thrusters. You lean in, inhaling deeply, and imagine the thrust of steam propelling bronze wings through ancient air. You whisper a gentle joke 3. If only Hero could see us now kids building rockets in garages, all started by a hissing kettle. The reflection in the glass smiles back, as though grateful for the recognition. You place a hand over your heart, feeling the soft pulse of excitement one last time. Stepping out into the cool night air, you lift your head to the star-filled sky. The constellations remain the same as in Heroes' Day, though now humanity's gaze has reached beyond them. You feel the automaton's legacy like a current running through your veins, a silent encouragement to keep pushing, tinkering, dreaming. The museum's hush lingers as you walk beneath arching corridors, each footfall softened by plush carpeting and cushioned echoes. Outside, the night air carries a gentle hush no distant traffic, only the soft rustle of leaves and the occasional sigh of a cooling stone. You inhale the crisp breeze, letting it fill your lungs with calm, and exhale the day's curiosity, secure in the knowledge that wonder needn't vanish with sleep. You find a secluded alcove lined with velvet chairs and dim lamps, their glow a muted amber recalling candlelit workshops of old. You nestle into a corner, the chair embracing you like a warm cocoon, and close your eyes against the soft murmur of an unseen fountain. Each breath you take is slower than the last, your chest rising and falling in a tranquil rhythm that matches the whisper of hidden pipes. In this sanctuary, every sense quiets. The brassy scent of heated metal gives way to the subtlest notes of polished wood and aged parchment. Your ears discern only the faint hum of climate controls and the distant drip of filtered water, gentle reminders that the world slows for those willing to listen. A single thought drifts through your mind. The gears of time turn softly now, and you are exactly where you need to be. Memories of clanking bronze and hissing steam fade into a soothing lullaby as each mental image dissolves into shadowed calm. You drift beyond the museum's columns, beyond marble halls, into a space where ancient ideas settle like soft feathers. No longer dazzled by marvels, you rest secure in the quiet legacy of Heroes' Curiositia. Promise that even the grandest inventions bow to serenity. As your eyelids grow heavier, you feel the boundaries between thought and dream blur. You sink deeper into the chair, buoyed by the gentle embrace of stillness. In this final moment, the past and present merge into a seamless whisper, and you trust the soft murmur of history to guide you into rest.